Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Okay. So the next picture, the next photo. Look, for me, talking to you like this is a holiday. I love it, and I love how you think, and I love sharing it, like, getting into these images and getting the sort of the longer conversation. It's great, and I do think I think there is something important about the shame, but you know me, I'm not exactly one to be. I'm pretty shameless. I'm not. I'm pretty TMI with you and your family about all the.
Well, I think
sanity.
that the problem is that with coronavirus and stuff is that when people don't share, all you hear about are the extremely sad cases in the news. You tend to not hear about the 82-year-old grandmother who contracted COVID and had a mild case. You don't hear about, you only hear about the elderly who get coronavirus, end up in the hospital, get into a coma, have kidney failure. I mean, that's all you hear about. You hear about the 38-year-old, really healthy, athletic person who had a stroke in the middle of the night for no reason.
Right.
So that's all you think of when you have coronavirus. You're just like, this is day 7. Is today the worst day? Am I going to take a turn? Is my body going to start fighting and all of a sudden start the attack cascade? Or is this just a mild course? And everything that I have had says that this is a mild course. And yet I check my pulse ox about 20 times a day. I check my temperature about 15 times a day. Every single time I have like a little bit of chest pain, I'm like, am I developing pneumonia from COVID? So it's constant.
Your
and it's
what
good
socks?
to be my pulse oximeter, my oxygen level.
Oh, okay.
So, so it actually is nice to have posted it, because then people have reached out and said, or reached out and said, well, I exposed my elderly parents and they never got it, or my 82-year-old neighbor had it and she's fine. And so you actually hear about the cases that are like, oh, okay, let's not forget 10 to 15% get really sick, but the majority do very well.
Sure.
So, it's good to hear the other side too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think, as a doctor, you're about, connecting with people and saying, okay, how can I help you? Let me give you the information or the guidance so you can become better and all this stuff. So, so it makes perfect sense that you would post it.
And now that I have it, I can have that connection with patients if they come up or if they have questions and stuff, and try to give them hands-on guidance.
For sure.
Yeah.
Maybe it's sensitive to ask this. So I'm fixated on this because you're essentially the first person who I know who got it. And so there is this curiosity, because it is usually as a news story, it's always outside somehow, beyond.
Mm-hmm.
In this next photo, in the third photo, it's a black and white image where you're doing a self-portrait. You're in your mask. So it's a black and white photo, the white mask. You are in the sort of bottom left quarter of the image with your face looking at the camera. You've got like a kind of a granny blanket over your thighs, and just you're sitting. Those are your pajamas. Right. With Minnie Mouse. And then okay, sorry. So you're sitting on this rattan sort of chair, and behind you is you're on your deck, which in Savannah is protected with mosquito netting or whatever, because the bugs can be bad. And then there's your nice sort of table, and at the end of the table, sitting like a pariah, is your very handsome. Well, not like a pariah, sorry. It's not, no, you're the pariah making a photo of the very handsome man sitting at the end of the table, looking at you, going like, okay, here we go. So,
yep.
I really love this image. Yeah, it's a really fantastic image because it's a perfect sort of snapshot. Now, at this moment, you have COVID, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So this was the day after taking that all alone picture.
Uh-huh.
The first one we talked about. So this is Saturday morning, and I am sitting on my deck having my coffee, and I still hadn't realized that I can't smell yet, but I was wearing my mask and getting ready for the weekend of just kind of being 12 feet away from everybody, wearing my mask, or being outdoors, and just kind of having that, just mentally getting prepared of just being like, you are there and I am here, and this is how we will be until 10 days pass. But what's actually funny is Brad went to go get tested that morning because, I was like, just go get tested. You've been clearing your throat a little bit. Just, it's the best way.
And
might as well go get it done.
You guys live together. I mean,
and we live together. Yes. So he went to go get tested, and so I think about half an hour after I took that picture, and then he came home and he was like, well, I'm positive. And the first thing I did was just rip off the mask and just give him the biggest hug and be like, we can be together.
Wait. Brad got COVID?
He's positive. We're all positive.
What?
We all got it. We're all dirty. Yes. So,
ew.
So we, I know. so it was actually quite nice because, now I didn't have to sleep in a separate room.
You make it sound like you've been through the war or something. I had to sleep in another room with the door closed.
But some people, but really, it's really lonely in there. I had some friends.
I just want to say that your words can and may be used against you in a court of law.
I know. But I had a friend who had a positive, and she had to isolate at home, but she had the kids. And then, so every single time somebody had a symptom, the clock had to reset. And this was the time before they reduced the time. So now it's about 7 to 10 days. It used to be 14 days. Mm-hmm. And I think she started her isolation at the end of October by Halloween. And it was going to end after she went through all the cycles of the kids by the 3rd of December.
Wow.
So so for like 4.5 weeks, she was just going to be home. Just nowhere to go, nothing. And I guess in other places they do lock down a lot better than the US, but that's a long time to be in locked. I know, we're not used to it here.
Dude.
So, I know.
Okay, so being in Hong Kong, it's like when they say, I don't even think they do this anymore, but for a while they would actually put these electronic whatever things that they were able to know if you left your house. Like, it's like the ankle bracelet. It's because they were just like, no way, man, you're in lockdown. You are not leaving the house. And or if you were positive, I think they would put you in special quarantine buildings or hotels or whatever. It's really funny. Like, the U.S. gets a lot of press, but I don't know. I don't know if the U.S. is really a leader when it comes to best practices.
No. And you and I are Canadian, so we've always known from the beginning that U.S. is not number one.
Sure.
We're number one. We're like, no, you're not. So we know that the U.S. doesn't do it right. I mean, every single time at my work, I call to tell somebody they have a positive. I'm always like, okay, so you're home, right? Because you got tested. Like, well, I'm at work right now. Like, right. Okay. So you have to go home now. And really, you should have stayed home. I'm like, well, can I just finish up my day? So I am not shocked at all that our numbers are through the roof. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's just nuts.
Yeah.
Why do you think So because you're Canadian living in the U.S. You're American actually. You have American like you're a full blown American.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, I hear people really ribbing on the U.S. Right? Americans. But it's like, hold on a second. Belgium is really bad. And like in Belgium, supposedly the numbers are through the roof. It was like that in Italy. It was like that. It was like that in Israel. I think supposedly Austria. I mean, like, I don't want to make a but it may not be true. But the UK has had, because we're in Hong Kong, we really hear a lot about the UK, and it's had extremely bad numbers. What do you think it is about the psyche that makes people have a hard time doing the best practices?
I mean, I guess they've termed it COVID fatigue. And it's real. It's like people get tired of I think you just get to a point of just saying, just like your friend said, like let me pick 4 or 5 things that I absolutely need to do to survive this, whether it's go to the gym or occasionally go to restaurants or hang out with your small circle of friends. But I think you end up doing that and then you're fine. And then you're invited to a wedding or a party and you go to that and you're fine. And then eventually you're just tired of I think people just get tired of staying home or not seeing their family. And I'm hoping that now that there is the vaccine, like not just we're talking about it, but it is available. I hope that people will be able to kind of get that last little energy, that last little boost to just stay home or to mask or to stay outdoors, or to maybe skip the holiday gathering and just wait for the vaccine because like we're so close. And I think that what was happening is that we kept talking about the vaccine and it was just about do the right thing and stay home. And people were just tired of it. Like they were missing family. We're social creatures. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we were missing. So yeah, I mean,
so you
can't fault anybody.
No, there is no fault really at all. But like whenever those conversations happen about blaming or judging others, it's like, well, yeah, we can judge. We can definitely judge. Some countries have a much better track record than others, but at the end of the day, people are reacting and responding to their needs and feelings. And okay, so we know that the vaccine, from what I understand, is given in 2 doses, split apart by 1 or 2 weeks, right? So as a pediatrician who has to sometimes give vaccinations, I assume that it being 2 doses there are going to be people falling off who are not going to get both, who might get one but not the other.
Yeah. So ideally you want to get the second dose because your immunity will increase from 50% to 95%. So it's definitely a very big increase to get that booster. What they're doing right now, and I think they're not going to see as many people being lost to follow-up for the first and second wave because of vaccines, because it's going to be nurses and physicians and respiratory therapists and nursing homes. So they'll be able to schedule their 3-week vaccine. And I think everybody's going to show up for that.
I agree.
And hopefully the people who are getting their vaccines, they're getting it because they want their immunization. Like they want to be protected. They want to see their family and they'll be responsible enough to get their booster. If you don't get the booster 3 weeks after, that's okay. It's ideal to get it about 3 weeks after the first one. It's like 21 to 28 days. But if you get it 3 months later, that's okay too.
Okay.
But I think people are going to want to get I think the people who are going to get the first one, they're getting it because they want it. And they will show up for the second. They're going to show up for the second booster.
So do you run into people, because if I find it hard to, I mean, look, there's a whole range of people's ideas and stuff. And do you run into people, no, it's not even I describe what it's like to run into people who are just like, vaccines are crap. That's bullshit. That's not real. It's a conspiracy or whatever. Have you run into that?
It's infuriating. Yes, it's infuriating. I do vaccines every day. It's part of the 2, 4, 6, 12, 15, 18, 4. It's part of every single visit that I deal, and that's months. And most of the time, parents will show up and do the vaccines, not a problem. But I would say about once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I have a parent who's refusing, or they've done almost all their vaccines and they're now up to their boosters at like 11 and 16 and they don't want them anymore, which I never understand. It's exhausting to have the conversation, but it's important to have the conversation with parents and try to get them to understand that it's not a big conspiracy. It's not a money-making pharma ploy, and that, I don't get extra dollars for giving a vaccine. We have a lot of conversations about ingredients in vaccines, but it's hard to convince people because they don't see these diseases anymore. Like, not many people see measles or chickenpox even, or rubella, or, polio. We don't see those things. I've never seen half the diseases that I vaccinate against. And so it's really hard to say, well, you really need your polio vaccine. Well, why? And it's like, they're like, I don't know anybody who's had it. Why am I getting it? And so it's sometimes a very difficult conversation to have, but what you have to do is just keep giving the information, keep giving the truths, and keep the conversation open, and hope that one day they'll turn around. And really, unfortunately, some states make it very difficult that it's just worthwhile to just go and get the vaccine than to fight it. But in Georgia, you just need to say it's a religious exemption, and that's all you need. So it's a little difficult. Well, any religion can, it's kind of.
So I would think that, look, you and I, it became a part of our lives very kind of intimately or very directly back in February, right? And I just like, geez, it's a long time. And it's like almost a year. And I would think that 90% of the population, or 95% of the population, which is a statistically strong number, is going to say, hey, you know what, man, this COVID thing is totally real. It's completely thrown the world into this crazy tailspin. So I would think that people would be like, you know what? Yeah, listen, I'm gonna follow the science or whatever.
I think it's going to be a little slow. I think it's going to be fast at first. I think you're going to have a lot of hopefully medical people who are going to jump on it. And there is a movement now in the medical community to advertise that we're getting the vaccine.
Oh, with a sticker, right?
Yeah, the sticker, some hashtags, that kind of thing, to just kind of spread the word that we're excited about the vaccine. And then I think there's going to be a slowdown. I think that a lot of people are going to either want to wait and see how people are reacting to the vaccine. And then there's going to be some people who are going to maybe want to see what a year out looks like. So I know that I'm still going to get mine. I can get it I think I can get it 2 weeks after I'm done with having COVID. And, my hope is that, but I've already been talking to patients saying like, so the vaccine's coming out. Are you excited? And I would say it's about 60% to 70% of my patients who are like, yeah, well, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to get it right away.
Wow.
So.
Explain to me something. You have COVID. You're getting the antibodies. So just explain it for the dumb people, myself included in the audience. Why would you consider yourself still worth it to
getting the vaccine?
Yeah, you've had it.
So having coronavirus produces antibodies. It's not guaranteed. So some people produce pretty strong antibodies and other people don't. So it is possible that the antibodies I make from this infection stay for up to 90 days or more, or it's possible they go away within 30 days. So they've been studying reinfection rates, and it's rare for people to get reinfected from coronavirus, but it is possible. And those who have been reinfected, sometimes their symptoms are worse the second go around.
Yeah.
So just because you've had it doesn't mean you won't get it again, and doesn't mean that your antibodies will stick. So so you still would want to get the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
But because I do have antibodies for a little bit of time, I can wait a little bit, let other people who are maybe more in need of the vaccine get ahead of me in the line, and then I can get it in 3 months.
Right. So in terms of the medical people that you know, these are people who are exposed to COVID probably the most, like most consistently, as a group. So of the people that you work with or are connected to professionally, how many people have said, yeah, got COVID? Or has even that been kind of people being a bit...
I think I know maybe 2 or 3 healthcare workers maybe a handful who've had coronavirus. Now I'm pretty sure there's more. They just haven't told me.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that people, and there, I can really, I really do understand that there would be this shame, because do you think it's just a factor? The shame is just the factor that it's everybody's trying to avoid it like the plague.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's maybe because, and I think I probably did it too, to like a friend or something. I have a good friend of mine and she got it. I'm sure, I know I gave her a little bit of a guilt trip about her circle and how big it was. And, I didn't make her feel any better. I'm sure she already felt terrible about it. But it's an automatic thing. Like I'm part of a pod of 5 moms with 8 kids, and we homeschool our kids, not because we want to, but because of coronavirus. And the schools are closed. But every single time somebody were to have a fever or somebody didn't feel good and we would have to like shut down the pod for a couple of days, there's that automatic like finger pointing of like, well, who were you with? And what did you, and you don't want to make the person feel bad, but it's an automatic, like, what did you do to expand your circle and put us at risk?
Sure.
And it's silly because we all have something that puts somebody else at risk. We've all opened up our circles a little bit. And so, and then you may think that your circle is really tight, but then that person might have a huge, like they might be going to restaurants every other week and you don't even know that. So yeah, it's just, it's funny how we all just want to kind of place the blame on something. 'Cause it can't be us. We can't be the dirty horse.
Well, but it's, when I hear you talk like that and use that language, whatever, I just think we're primates. We're social primates. And this is just part of how we as primates, we interact within groups, right? And the first step is to kind of turn around and say, you're dirty and whatever.
Well, it's like a big game of Clue. Who did it? With what?
Right.
This is so...
That's
it was me.
Yeah,
in the
it
kitchen.
was you
with the candlestick.
In the kitchen with a turkey baster. So, wrong conversation. Again, damn it, wrong conversation.
Nice.
So sorry. Okay, so what's going on with you guys then after this? So in terms of the microcosm of your family, so Brad has COVID, you have COVID. I assume the 2 girls
had COVID.
Okay. And so what is the protocol for the family?
So it's 10 days and then we are no longer contagious if we don't have any more symptoms or if we're feeling better. So we actually had a trip planned to Key West for Friday, and that is our 10-day mark. So luckily we can still go on our trip. That is the plan for the Connors. Yeah, we're going to go. We're going to the Keys, and that's what I was doing just before we spoke, is I was canceling the trip for Mom and Dad because they will not be coming, so just to be on the safe side, because just like we were saying, we're so close to the end. Mm-hmm. Why take unnecessary risks for them? So we're just going to cancel their trip.
So now that you have COVID and you're coming out of COVID, so have you had other patients or other friends who have been, because we haven't heard stories about people who've had COVID and who are just, listen, back to life. Okay, now we're not even as worried.
Yeah. Well, so, it's funny because I've been seeing lots of people who have their kids in extracurricular activities and they're doing like cheer competitions or dance competitions. And before having coronavirus, I was like, well, that's very irresponsible of them. And then now realizing, wait, they probably had it. Or, I know some people who are going to weddings, like for some reason, all their friends are getting married and maybe they've already had COVID. And maybe now this is why they've enrolled their kids in extracurriculars, because they're like, well, I guess they just haven't said it. They haven't told anybody, but they're now, they have antibodies and they're like, well, my child can go to these large group competitions. So I'm wondering if maybe that's kind of what's happening. Some people have had it and they are choosing to go about, and yes, they look irresponsible to us because, hey, that's not the right thing to do when you're trying to fight off having coronavirus. But if you've already had it, then a part of me is a little relieved because the girls go back to school in January, 2 days a week. We're starting back. The school's opening up for 2 days a week. So part of me is slightly relieved that the girls can go to school and they have some protection.
Right.
So
right.
that makes me a little bit more comfortable.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I love you, Yael.
Love you too. Stay clean. Wash your hands. And don't get chlamydia.
Right. Don't get,
corona.
And you know what? No shame about any of anything. I just feel like that whole thing is just whatever. Like, who's got, you have one life. Don't be ashamed if you have.
I'm going to scream it from the rooftops.
For
I
sure.
have COVID.
No, not only COVID, anything. And that lazy eye. I mean, you can't get it fixed.
Okay.
Don't be, it's fine. You're fine.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Bye. Love you.
Bye. Love you too. Bye. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.